This right here is a visual of how music affects your brain. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to Glastonbury Festival. While I was at the front at Coldplay, I actually made my first ever appearance on the BBC. I'm right there! Although it was my first ever claim to fame, I had a big problem. I lost my friends and I was completely on my own, surrounded by 100,000 people. I felt pretty anxious and nobody around me was particularly friendly. The weird thing was, when the music came on, everything changed. I didn't feel anxious anymore and I started to connect to the strangers around me. And the music did that. So that started the thought, how has music just affected my brain? That brings us back here to this diagram. Here's your brain and let's get into how music changes it. Stick around to the end for some healthy habits related to music that you can apply to your everyday life.
All sound waves entering the ear are converted into nerve impulses.
While I was at Glastonbury, I decided to watch Little Sims. My friends didn't want to join me, so I wandered down to the front of the stage because it wasn't too busy, completely on my own. And she was absolutely great. When she finished, I realised I was right at the front, and if I spent this hour on my own, I'd be at the front for Coldplay. Like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I had to wait, but it was a bizarre feeling to be surrounded by people, yet feeling alone. When Chris Martin came out and played that first note and the crowd erupted, how did my brain process it?
Hello, let's go.
When the music begins to fill the air around you, it enters your ears through here to vibrate your eardrum. The small bones of your ears respond to the sounds, communicating those vibrations to your cochlea.
Here we see in slow motion how these sound waves, by beating against the drum membrane, are carried across the middle ear to the inner ear by the chain of ossicles.
This magical little structure is filled with 10 to 15,000 hair cells, or cilia, and as the vibrations move through the fluid within it, the hair cells relay those signals to your brain through your auditory nerve. Imagine your cochlea as the crowd at Glastonbury. Each little hair cell is like a fan waving, sending signals through to your brain. The first step along that process is to stop at the auditory cortex of the temporal lobes. Your auditory cortex processes the pitch, loudness, and melody to translate the electrical signals into musical masterpieces. So what happens if you take a spear through the head that damages your auditory cortex? If you can no longer process the characteristics of the music, does your brain still respond to it? There are a couple of cases in the past where people have suffered brain damage to their temporal lobes. Yet, they still feel that music is able to lift their mood and reduce their stress. While their temporal lobes were damaged, the emotional parts of their brain that process the music were not. Let's look at those now. Before Coldplay started playing, I felt pretty lonely. And I was pretty stressed standing there in the crowd, knowing that my friends were about 75,000 people behind me. When the music started, that stress went away entirely. I want to know how music impacts stress. So what's going on behind the scenes? That music left my auditory cortex to stimulate the limbic system of my brain. And that includes my amygdala. The signals hit my amygdala, and this is one of the key places that gives you those shivers when you hear those beautiful high notes. Those high notes out of context mimic a scream, which sets your stress response in motion. But when the logical part of your brain is able to rationalize that there's no threat around you, it combines the emotional response from your amygdala with your pleasure centers to give you those shivers of pleasure and those goosebumps on the back of your neck. The other two structures here come into play later and help to explain music's impact on memory. To illustrate just how powerful music can be for stress, let's look at a study from New York and how music impacted patients undergoing surgery. The study took 40 patients having cataract surgery and assigned them to one of two groups. One listened to music through headphones before, during, and immediately after the operations. The others were in complete silence through all of those phases. Before surgery, the patients in both groups had very similar blood pressures, with the average sitting around here, 129/82. The average blood pressures in both groups rose to here just before the surgery. And in both groups, the average heart rate also jumped by 17 beats per minute. The patients surrounded by silence saw no change in their blood pressure throughout the operation, whereas the blood pressures of those who listened to music came down rapidly, on average dropping to around here, 124/68. The listeners also reported feeling calmer and better subjectively during the operation. This study from New York has its limitations. 40 patients is only small, but it also shows how music might have relieved my stress. Because when we think about this, if music is able to impact people who are literally having surgery on their eyes and they're still awake, then obviously it could impact me feeling a little bit lonely in the crowd at Glastonbury. There's nothing in comparison. Heading back to Glastonbury, when Coldplay were playing, I felt this weird connection to the strangers around me. People that I felt really awkward talking to before suddenly started full-on conversations with me and were really, really friendly. Can music help us bond with complete strangers? To understand that, we need to move on to the next brain structure. The next stop on the journey of music through your brain is at your hypothalamus. This part of your brain may look small, but it is ridiculously powerful, and it regulates many of the hormones that are coursing through your veins. The role it plays here is to stimulate the production and release of oxytocin. Oxytocin is released when you bond with others. And there's evidence that suggests that oxytocin can also reduce pain, which could be why when you listen to music during that really hard squat set in the gym, it helps you through the pain. It can also enhance empathy, trust, and social bonding by modulating the activity in parts of your brain responsible for decision making. To work out how powerful music can be, Sonos and Apple teamed up with a neuroscientist called Dr. Levitin. They carried out a study on 30,000 participants from 8 different countries. If you had music on, do you think you'd sit closer to the people around you? Well, this study showed that 66% of people reported that they sat closer to the people around them when they had music on. They also spent 5 more hours together per week compared to those in silence. And couples who played music in their homes said they felt more emotionally connected to each other than those that didn't. Let's take this obviously with a pinch of salt, because Apple and Sonos want to sell speakers to you. So the study wasn't randomized, it wasn't controlled, and there's lots of potential for bias. But the statistics are also really interesting, because they could help explain why I felt more connected to those around me as soon as Coldplay started playing. The music stimulated oxytocin release in all of our brains to bond us together in this once-in-a-lifetime experience. This Glastonbury experience is something I always hope to remember, but that isn't guaranteed. We all lose our memories as we get older, but could music prevent that? This is Henry Dreer.
I'll be home there for Christmas.
There's nobody who has shown the true impact that music can have on the brain better than him. This is his story. Henry had been largely unresponsive, unable to recognise family or recall significant details about his life because of Alzheimer's.
Who am I? I don't know. Wait a minute.
Just as Coldplay now holds a special memory for me, Cab Galloway held a special memory for him.
Cab Calloway was my #1 band guy. I liked.
The rhythm, melody, and harmonies of Cab Galloway acted as a key to reanimate Henry. As the music played, Henry began to sing along, tap his feet, and even recall memories associated with the songs. He became more animated, and for a short time, he was able to converse with his family more fluidly, recognizing people and recalling past events. This awakening highlighted how deeply embedded music is within the brain, and how it can bypass the cognitive decline associated with Alzheimer's to allow these patients to retrieve long-lost memories. How could that have happened? Remember the amygdala from earlier? I said we'd come back to these two structures next to it because it turns out they're playing a key role in reanimating Henry in this video. The amygdala and hippocampus have deep connections to one another, and emotionally charged memories leverage this connection, giving us nostalgia. The intensity and emotionality of the music allow the amygdala to enhance activation of the hippocampus. That's exactly what's happening when Henry hears Cab Calloway.
Oh, you can count and plan on me.
It's allowing the amygdala to give the hippocampus a boost to retrieve these long-lost memories. But the rhythm also plays a role here too. The rhythm and beats are processed by the motor regions of the brain, with a key one of those being the cerebellum. This is why even individuals with severe dementia may tap their feet or clap to the beat of a song. Speech is also a movement, so this improved communication after listening to music could be partially explained by his cerebellum being impacted by the music.
He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
Henry's story illustrates just how life-changing music can be. But how can we incorporate music into our own lives to unlock its full potential? I always want to leave you with actionable advice, with healthy habits to take away from these videos after you watch them. Here are 3 that I think might help you in relation to music. Pair music that you like with tasks that you don't. In the Sonos study from earlier, 83% of participants said that by listening to music while doing chores, it made those chores more enjoyable. The main character always needs a killer soundtrack, so you gotta find yours. Music is a great tool to bring you closer to the people around you. I found that the release of oxytocin that it causes, especially with live music, is so powerful for both improving my mood and also for bonding me with other people. Maybe you take your next date to some live music, or use music to reignite the bond with your partner through surprising them with live Oasis tickets. Use it to help with your stress. If it can help people deal with the stress of getting surgery on their eyes, then surely it can be a tool in your arsenal to help with your stress. Find the right music for you and use it as a tool to help you when you're in really stressful situations. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to build healthy habits and understand your health better, then subscribe for more videos like this. And if you want to know how McDonald's impacts your brain, then watch this video right here. Thank you very much for watching.